about half of the nation's growth during this last decade has come from Hispanics, largely from Hispanic immigrants. In a state like Illinois, Illinois probably would have had, probably could have lost one more congressional seat if it hadn't been for Hispanic population growth here in the state of Illinois. And for many other states like New Jersey, it's a very similar story. One other interesting thing about the census count, census counts generally in most states for Hispanics are coming in higher than the population estimates that the Census Bureau had published just a year ago for the Hispanic population. So it looks like the Census Bureau was actually predicting that there would be fewer Latinos in the United States than there actually are. Now, part of the reason for that is it's difficult to capture everything. Population estimates are based off of Census 2000 data and then changes that have happened since. So Census 2010 is very important for updating those population estimates. Nonetheless, a lot of that growth and a lot of those difficulties with coming up with estimates are actually because of growth in Hispanic immigrant populations. So in Alabama, the population count for Hispanics was actually higher by 15% than the population estimate had been just going in. For Illinois, it was about 1%. Big states like Illinois, things are pretty, you got pretty good estimates. But it's in states like Alabama and the Southeast, particularly where we saw the population counts for Hispanics much higher than the actual estimates, and that's largely due to immigration and immigrant population growth.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Xochitl Espinosa. I'm actually a proud Dominican alumni, and I now work for a pro-immigrant organization here in Chicago called the National Alliance of Latin American Caribbean Communities. And my question, we're really worried about the rhetoric that's going around against the Latino community, using the word illegal. And one of the things that, this question is actually for Ms. Collier. We're looking for to sort of we're fighting the dehumanization of immigrants as a whole. And one of the things that we realize is that media has a lot of impact, right? Like back, answering her questions, like why is there so much meaning, why are these attacks on the Latino community? And one of the things that we realize is that the media is having a huge impact on what we think and the way we see people. And so we're looking for other outlets to fight against this, such as the social media and also religious institutions, because as she said, we have that sort of ethical and social responsibility to see people as human beings. So my question to Ms. Collier is what would you suggest? What kind of strategies or ideas for collaboration can we how can we engage the religious communities to help us humanize the immigrant community?
I would only have a few suggestions, and most of them are within sort of Catholic circles, but it's amazing how many grassroots organizations, particularly in the Chicago area, probably like the one that you work for, how many of them exist. And there is so much grassroots organizing, but it really is a matter of, like Elena was talking about, trying to gather 200,000 postcards. I was at a meeting with Elena a week or two ago, and we were talking about Senator Kirk. And I was frustrated with some of the feedback I had gotten from people who work for him that didn't make any sense based on what my question was. And I think somebody from his office told somebody at this meeting that, he's not going to work for anything on behalf of more comprehensive immigration reform, because when he goes to town hall meetings and when he hears back from people, he doesn't hear from people who are concerned about the dehumanization of immigrants. So a lot of it is trying to find a voice. And so if the people that he's hearing from are people who come from an anti-immigrant bent, then he's not going to have any reason to budge from his practice of not being willing to even see anybody who's working on behalf of immigrants. So part of it is, if you look at Network, which is a Catholic organization run by religious women, Justice for Immigrant website, is it ICIRR? RIP? I probably get 4 emails a day saying, go on this blog and answer this. Email your senator with this letter. So I think it really is, in terms of our political sphere, it really is about getting numbers of people. Some of it also is outcry when you hear things that happen. I don't know if this was the same congressional testimony as your colleague, but I got an email, I think it was in the last week, that at either that hearing or another hearing, FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and Mark Krikorian were the two people giving testimony. Well, why would you invite them to congressional testimony? Like, you know what they're going to say, right? I mean, they say the same thing. They're part of this John Tanton group of researchers who cite one economist at Harvard to support almost all of their positions on employment and everything else. So I really think grassroots organizing is what we're going to have to do. And I mean, social media is such a boon, I think, to grassroots organizers because you can cross-pollinate a lot.
I think we also have to challenge language. Mark mentioned secure communities, or one of was here about this new, or Elena, that where Congress is calling, well, what is a secure community? That getting the police to fingerprint people and deport them, getting local police. Well, in some ways, I'm less secure when I know that the undocumented are afraid to go to the police. The mayor of Kankakee tells a wonderful story that he was tracking crime rates in Kankakee. And he realized that what was happening was the undocumented couldn't get bank accounts, and so they were keeping their cash in their mattresses. And so everybody knew that was a nice place to go to rob money, and they wouldn't go to the police after they got robbed. So how secure was that? So he went to the Hispanic community in Kankakee. Wonderful story. They now have a sister relationship with a town in Mexico. He's been to Mexico. The folks are involved in the Park District. They worked out matriculars to get bank accounts. It became a secure community when they took him out of the underground and said, you're part of this community. And he's been a great voice in speaking about that. But we let Congress label things about we're afraid of them and we need to do this extra enforcement with secure communities when it shows it just does the opposite. So we have to call that for what it is and object to that.
Before I move forward, actually, I'm going to pose a question to Mark Lopez. Sticking with objectivity, from an economical standpoint, what are the industries, really, the industries that are the base of the American economy that are really kind of sustained by the Hispanic Latino community? Are there numbers that say that we really are the base of the economic sustainability? Are there real numbers that exist that show that we are part of it, or is it all just myth? And if they are, let me know which industries are the industries that are the best, that are most.
Very, very good question. Yes, we have done some work on this. We have looked at the industries that Latinos are working in, also the industries that the unauthorized are working in. And a couple of things. When we talk about unauthorized immigrants, they're more likely to be in the labor force. They're more likely to actually be working than general Americans are. Another thing about the unauthorized, when we talk about the unauthorized labor force, it is concentrated in construction, it's concentrated in farming, it's concentrated in manufacturing. That's where we see the most, and also, food service and hospitality. When we talk about Latinos more generally, we see a very similar pattern. Latinos are more likely than the general American public to be in the fields of construction, in manufacturing, in transportation, than you see it for all Americans. One other thing I'd add, however, when we talk about educational attainment among Latinos, we also see that educational attainment among Hispanic adults is lower than it is for the general U.S. population. Now, that's partly because many folks as immigrants haven't come here necessarily to get more education. They've come here for other purposes, necessarily to work. But even so, even among those who are native-born, you see lower rates of educational attainment and a lower expectation among those young people that they actually want to get a college degree. We can send you specific data. If you want to send me an email, I can send you a link to reports where. Yes. Yeah. 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 In the construction industry, you'll see that about 25% are of Hispanic origin, and that's higher than the share of the U.S. population that's Hispanic at about 16. When we talk about the state of Nevada, you'll notice that about 10% of Nevada's workforce are unauthorized immigrants, and that's highest of any state in the country. So those are the types of facts that I can certainly direct you to in reports that we've published over the years. It's hard to remember all of them, but there's quite a few.
We have space for one more question this evening.